ready to get this day started? Woo!
Yeah.
I love it. I'm so excited. We're not there yet. All right. So our first workshop is cutting the air with laughter. So Amy Callahan is the owner and cook and a cook for and the founder of Chez Amy. She's originally from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Her maternal grandmother was first generation Italian American. And as many of you guessed, food is the way of life. The pride ceremony and preparing of food to share with family and friends is deep rooted in her. She infuses humor into all of her recipes and sprinkles it on her coping skills, which have been paramount during this pandemic. Please welcome Amy Callahan. Woo!
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for including me. I'm thrilled. And Luna wants to say hello too. Come on, honey. Come on. Come on. Come. She's usually part of my videos, so this is her thing. Come on. Come on. Come away. So she doesn't want to. She's wanted to introduce her favorite bunny. This is Purple because we have 6 bunnies running around this house. So when I saw the call for pitches, I was like, I want to try this. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? I'm not a comedian. I don't know anything about the rituals and technicalities of being a comedian, but I make people laugh, so I'm going to try. So I have 3 real life stories that have happened probably in the last year timeframe. And I'm just going to share with you how I've cut tension or kind of changed the mood or dealt with something that could have gone conflict and it went better than it could have. So the first one, I was brought in on a consulting job, and the lead consultant was the expert in a lot of this, and I was really there for backup, for looking for the small little details that may be overseen because the lead consultant was dealing with the technicalities of the job. And the job entailed a multi-million-dollar renovation of a keystone building in a small town with just a handful of local people working on it, and really just investing all they had in it, time, energy, skills, everything. And we got a tour of this building and the progress, and it was super exciting to learn how this building was going to be used in this community. And but they had some glitches. It wasn't going smoothly, like the behind the scenes business aspect of it. And so as I'm listening to the questions and the problems kind of unfold and appear, and it's just getting more and more complex, and it's like getting harder and harder and harder, and it was really, really challenging for everybody. So long story short, there was really not much more to be talked about, and with the whole thing kind of needed to kind of wrap up. We'd been there for quite some time. But the sticking point, the challenge, the most like, you can't believe this is happening, is the group of owners were under the impression that they would have a very large amount of money that they could pay themselves for their time with. And it was expected that it would be an expense. And in fact, it was going to be considered taxable income. And because it was such a large amount of money, it was going to be a very high tax rate. And they all just went, "You're kidding." And it was like that grief, right? First there's denial, then there's anger, and then there's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like all within a very short period of time. And I literally watched one of the people's face turn redder and redder and redder. And he just was like, oh my God, this can't be, tell me this is not happening. So I'm sitting here going, this is really bad. And we're going through all the rituals of trying to make sure that we understand everything, and lots of questions are being asked and everything, but no, that's what it's going to be. And so it was getting later. I was getting hungry. There's no more questions to be asked. And we're kind of sitting around in this half renovated building. And I go, well, everybody, I think we can pick up our bucket and check that off the list. And I started like walking out the door, and it just like the room erupted in laughter. And I was like, whew, either that was going to go really good or really bad. And it was one of those really quick-witted, quippy things that you don't really try to do. you don't plan. But it just like gave everybody that little morsel of relief. And it was really, really helpful. And it all unfolded the way it was supposed to unfold in good time. But it was like really painful to watch them go through that learning experience. So that's the first thing. And humor in business meetings like that doesn't really always work. And that one, I kind of lucked out. The second one is a little bit more personal. It was a personal relationship where, my sweetheart's job was really stressful. And sometimes when we have conversations, the response was more of when we'd have talk, I'd get responses that were more in alignment with the stress level of work, not necessarily our relationship. And so I'm like, well, I will model the behavior I want. Well, it didn't click. And it was months and months and months of it didn't click. And I'm like, okay, plan B, I have to try plan B because this isn't working. It's not registering. So I started to ask the question. I said, I think maybe you're trying to tell me that you love me, but the way you're talking to me doesn't feel like love. And it was like, oh, well, that's not what I meant. And so then the responses became more like, well, I'm loving you. Can't you figure it out? Can't you tell this is love? And we kind of like turned that what could be conflict and like, stop talking to me like that all the time, like the headbutting. We turned it into a little lighthearted, but it evolved over time. And then we would catch ourselves and we would talk to each other the way our emotions matched our tone and our words and stuff. And it did evolve and get better. Well, my sweetheart was having a phone conversation at a later time with a sibling. And that same kind of kind of tension came from the other side of the phone. And I thought, oh, it's genetic. I don't have to worry about it. It's not personal. And I told him that. So it kind of went well, but it kind of didn't. But you know what I'm saying? So I just kind of like didn't press it very much. Months later, this is like 6 months later, after trying all of these different things and having several opportunities to practice. I was outside doing yard work or I don't know, something. And I'm thinking about all the things that have to be done in the house. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I have a long-standing, if you want to give me a birthday present, a Christmas present, a Mother's Day present, clean the toilets, clean the bathroom, because I hate cleaning the toilets. I like gag. It's my own toilet and I gag. How do people clean houses and businesses? And some businesses are really, I want to throw up. So literally for years, I say, clean the bathrooms. That's like the best present you can possibly give me. So it's longstanding and well-known. So I'm outside doing all this yard work and I'm thinking about all the other things in the house that need to be done. And so it dawned on me, how can this be? And this is what it is. So this same sweetheart used to have a horse breeding farm with like 25 horses. Do you know how much poop there is for 25 horses? Do you know how much smell there is from cleaning stalls for 25 horses and the babies and the everythings? There's a lot of poop. I mean, you come home and you don't smell it, and then you get in the shower and your hair smells like a horse farm, and you're like, oh, it's that strong? Didn't know. So I'm like, okay, if he will clean stalls, he'll mark stalls, but he won't clean his own toilet. Okay, this is not working for me. There is no excuse. So I'm like, okay, So if I approach this with my frustration, then it's going to be conflict. That's not going to work. Then I can't even joke about the toilets anymore, right? I can't ask them for presents anymore either. So I just said, okay, how do I approach this? So this is what I did. Hey, honey, I have something really funny to tell you. Well, it's not really funny, but you're going to think it's funny because I'm telling you now to prepare for it's going to be really funny. And he's like, what are you up to now? And I said, I thought of this really comical thing. So you will muck all these stalls, but you won't clean your toilet. I don't get it. And he started laughing so hard. It was like the best way I could have told him, I still would like it if you clean your own toilet. Okay, it hasn't really happened on a regular basis yet, but I got to say my beef and we didn't get in an argument and we still laugh about it. So that's a little, I know, right? Thank you. So that's the second story. And it was like all these layers of on and on and on. And I'm always like, honey, you're not laughing. I'm funny. Why aren't you laughing? And he'll be like, yeah, whatever. I'm watching the football game. So it's this ongoing thing with us. All right. So the last story is actually going to make me cry and laugh all at the same time. So I come from storytellers. My mom and dad are like the best storytellers ever. And my mom's mom, I've been told by family members, was hysterical. And there's lots of stories about that. So my mom's Italian, and my mom claims that my dad says he always forgets how short she is because she's so mean. So anyways, so my mom has become the matriarch of our Italian family because she's kind of the oldest surviving relative on that side of my mom's family. And it is not uncommon for my mom to be the go-to person, host the events, and just really be the person that takes care of a lot of things. Well, when COVID hit, my parents were in Southern California in Riverside County. And so were my sister and her husband. And I was having a complete and utter panic attack. I wanted them to come home. And parents being parents and capable, because they've made it this far in life, are like, we're fine. Don't worry about it. I'm like, you're not fine. You have to come home. And actually, I was really afraid that they'd all get stuck out there because we just didn't know how everything was going to go down. We didn't know anything. And I think I ended up getting sick, and they're in a hospital in Southern California. How much can I advocate for them from Wisconsin over the phone? I was very scared. I was afraid for them traveling. Would they get stuck somewhere if they tried to come back? Because you just didn't know how intense the restrictions were going to get and how fast, because day by day, everything was evolving quickly. And so I'm having conversations with my dad, my sisters together. And if you call my parents, they put you on speakerphone. So you can't play good cop, bad cop with them because they totally muck everything up. It's like you talk to one, you talk to both. So, that's not going to work. So you're trying every strategy you can get. And the holdout was my mom. She hates winter. I don't blame her. She wanted to stay in Southern California. Well, who wouldn't? So, you have the conversations to test the water. It's not my decision. I have to honor what they're going to do, but I want them to come home. It doesn't matter. I still want them to come home. And I'm getting more and more anxious. I've got my kid in New York City, in Brooklyn, and I got my parents in Southern California. I'm like, okay, I just need somebody to be safe. Okay, so my kid is going off to Long Island to her boyfriend's family's house. Okay, that's getting resolved. Okay, still my parents. My sister wants to come home. She wants to be back in the Midwest with her kids, her grown kids. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm calling mom and dad. So it's a Friday morning. I wait for them to get up because I can't wake them up. That would ruin everything. And I call them. And my dad ditches me. He knows what I'm up to. And he totally ditches me and leaves me on the phone with mom. And I'm like depending on my dad to like back him up and say, well, maybe we should, I think maybe the kids are right this time. I think we should come. No, he leaves me high and dry. I'm thinking, all right, Dad, thanks a lot. This is hard enough. So I'm talking to my mom and she's being super rational, we're going to be fine. We'll just see how things go. And I lose it. And they start sobbing, literally like an 8-year-old kid who just got like their favorite toy crushed and damaged on the playground or something. And I literally started just, I need you to come home. I don't care. I need you to come home. I couldn't talk. I couldn't do anything. It was horrible. And my mom's like, oh my God, honey, please stop crying. I can't. I'm like getting the snot nose that's like growing exponentially. And thank God I didn't have any makeup on because it's like all coming down. And I'm just like a gusher. I'm like, I'm not faking and I'm not putting it on, but I just think about it and I can recreate the fear I had. And so my mom, she keeps asking me to stop crying. I can't. So I needed to kind of pull myself together. And I'd already said this to other people in my conversations leading up to the Mom, you got to come home. And she says, well, have you talked to your dad? Have you talked to your sisters? I'm like, yeah, we all want you to come home. I said, all right, Mom, here's the deal. I'm pulling a mom. You do this to everybody else and I'm doing it to you. You don't like the way something's going. You march right in. You say, okay, that's it. I'm taking over and this is what's going to be done. And this is what we're doing. So that's what I'm doing. You taught me well. And I want you to come home and just get whatever you need done and get home. She's like, and I was like, whew, I said it. And I'm like, wait, I'm kind of bracing myself for what is she going to say to me now? Because she's not bashful. So she pauses. I know she's not happy, but she understands. This is very meaningful to me. It's very important to me. And she says, let me talk to your father. I'm like, oh, that's a good sign. I didn't get no. So I'm like, okay, thank you. I love you. I love you too. And it'll be okay. And I'll talk to you later. Right away, I'm on the phone with my sisters. Okay, I talked to mom. La, la, la. And I pulled you would do this to us. I'm doing it back to you. And talk to some of my aunts and I tell them I did the same thing and they lost it. They're like, that's exactly what she do. I said, I know, I did it to her. Because that would be like the elephant in the room, right? Everybody knows that she'd be the one taking over. And I thought, you taught me well. I learned everything. So I'm using it too. And my parents made a trip from California to Wisconsin in 2.5 days. I don't know how they did it, but they came home and they have been safe and been without any COVID. And I tolerated without any pushback to my mom. It was cold in Wisconsin and it's frickin' cold. And I didn't care because she was home. She was home and she was safe. And those are like 3 very meaningful experiences that I've had where it was really tense. It was really scary. It was really frustrating. You try multiple things. And when I used the humor in that way, like, it just like took down these barriers and it just it honored our relationships. It honored the struggle of whatever the problem was that was being presented. And it's just been really very positive. And by the way, everybody who I talked about knows that I'm talking about them today. So it's all good. I'm on the up and up. So that to me is just some really helpful ways of managing really difficult situations. So thanks.
I love it.
Woo!
That's
Thank
so
you.
beautiful. Does anyone have any questions? The day is obviously not all funny, but comedy comes from a place of pain a lot of times, and it comes from a place of fear and hurt and growing and coping. And I feel like what your stories have just really shed light onto that. And I was laughing and crying. So tears. So does anyone have a question? No? Okay. Well, I would like, so how do you conscientiously infuse humor when things feel really scary? Is that a weird question?
Is that for me or for everybody?
For you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, for me, it's not. This is probably not going to be the answer that you're looking for. It's more of a quick wit. It just comes to me, and then I have to make a quick decision. Do I use my inside voice and keep it to myself, or do I use my outside voice? And sometimes it slips out and it doesn't work.
Word. I hear that. I had something else I was going to say. Oh, the biggest thing for me was like looking at your bio and knowing the things I know about you from mutual friends. My curiosity is how you've maintained to not be enormous from an Italian family as a cook.
Okay, that's a great question. I get that a lot. Because there's always more, because I know how to make it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm a squirrel. So my mom gives us very generous gifts of food all the time, because you can't buy food in New York, you can't buy food in California, and you can't buy food in Madison versus Kenosha, just so you know. So I have like containers full of homemade pasta, and I confessed like how much I have, and she's like, "You still have all of that?" I'm like, "Mm-hmm." So that's the one thing I can't make very well, because at 51 years old, my mommy is still making my pasta. And so I don't make it very often. Although I did make ravioli for my sister many years ago. One ravioli for every year plus one extra or something like that. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's always more. Because I can make it myself. So I go to restaurants and I'm like, I wonder how they made that. And I look at the menu and I look at the ingredients, and then sometimes I try to make it at home. So
I feel like what you do and humor and comedy all are infused together, because I don't know about everyone else out there, but when I'm around a dinner table sharing food with my family of my choice, I feel like we are so funny and have so much fun. And so I really enjoyed that aspect. And thank you so much, Amy Callahan.
thank you.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Now